Hare Krishna. Hope you can all hear me well.
Yes.
Let me put on my better microphone.
Hare Krishna. Okay, we are reading from the Krishna book, chapter 10, the deliverance of Nalakuvara and Manigriva.
I may interrupt you periodically.
The story of the cursing of Nalakuvara and Manigriva and their deliverance by Krishna under the all-blissful desire of the great sage Narada is here described. The two great demigods, Nalakuvara and Manigriva, were sons of the treasurer of the demigods, Kuvera, who was a great devotee of Lord Shiva. By the grace of Lord Shiva, Kuvera's material opulences had no limit. As a rich man's sons often become addicted to wine and women, so these two sons of Kuvera were also addicted to wine and sex. Once these two...
The first point, everyone wants money. And when you get a lot of money, if you're not careful, you become degraded. Can you hear me? Yeah. I grew up in a neighborhood where everyone had more money than they needed. And that facilitated what's being described here. And actually I had two friends that died from an overdose of drugs. They were like 16, 17. They didn't know what they were doing. And then Prabhupada also said that you get this blessing. You get this blessing that if you're not a devotee, you'll take birth in a wealthy family. You could take birth as yogis, but you could take birth in a wealthy family. You get this blessing. And then that blessing can become a curse because you're surrounded by all this opulence. So there's other places where Prabhupada talks about the dangers of wealth. So this pastor said, money, he said, some people say money can't buy you happiness. And he said, actually can when you use it in service. So there's nothing wrong with money. But when people get it who don't know how to use it, then they can degrade themselves. And so Narada Muni's response was that they're actually like high class people. These are the sons of Kuvera. Look what they're doing. So he wanted to take everything away from them because that would be the best thing. Anyway, go ahead.
Once these two demigods, desiring to enjoy, entered the garden of Lord Shiva in the province of Kailas, on the bank of the Mandakini Ganges. There they drank much and engaged in hearing the sweet singing of the beautiful women who accompanied them.
It wasn't water they were drinking. It was alcohol or whatever intoxicant they have there, probably better than alcohol.
There they drank much and engaged in hearing the sweet singing of the beautiful women who accompanied them in that garden of fragrant flowers. In an intoxicated condition, the two demigods entered the water of the Ganges, which was filled with lotus flowers, and there they began to enjoy the company of the young girls, exactly as a male elephant enjoys female elephants within the water. While they were thus enjoying themselves in the water, all of a sudden Narada, the great sage, happened to pass that way. He could understand that the demigods Nalakuvara and Manigriva were too much intoxicated and could not even see that he was passing. The young girls, however, were not so much intoxicated as the demigods, and they at once became ashamed at being naked before the great sage Narada. They began to cover themselves with all haste. The two demigod sons of Kuvera were so much intoxicated that they could not appreciate the presence of the sage Narada and therefore did not cover their bodies. On seeing the two demigods so degraded by intoxication, Narada desired their welfare, and therefore he exhibited his causeless mercy upon them by cursing them.
Okay, we have to. A devotee can't actually curse. Now, sometimes you read in the Bhagavatam about sages cursing, and it's quite, I'm sure you're probably thought, like, what if he's a sage, why is he cursing? And they have the power to bless. If you have the power to bless, you also have the power not to bless. Meaning you have the power to cause problems for somebody by your will, by your desire. So then one would think, why would a sage, quote unquote, a sage, curse anybody? And there's a verse in the Bhagavatam that says that only a devotee can perfectly control their senses. Nobody else, even the sages, yogis, and like that, they can't perfectly control. Only the devotee can perfectly control. And of course, you have nectar of instruction, vacho vega, manasakrota vega, the mind, the anger, vacho vega, manasakrota, udara, the tongue, the stomach, the genital. That's what it means to be guru or pure devotee. And that's possible. So you'll see, every time you see a story where a sage is cursing someone, then you can think, aha, yes. Because they're not devotees, they're not controlling their anger, or they're not controlling their revenge. They're not being tolerant because they're not devotees. They're not pure devotees. But for devotee, it said, devotee only blesses, and even if they curse, what seems like a curse, it's going to be a blessing. So devotees would never curse anybody unless it was going to help them. So when we say Narada Muni cursed / blessed, it was a curse because they would take birth as trees. It was a blessing because they would meet Krishna. Anyway, go ahead.
Tough love. Because the great sage was compassionate upon them, he wanted to finish their false enjoyment of intoxication and association with young girls, and wanted them to see Lord Krishna face to face. He conceived of cursing them as follows. He said that the attraction for material enjoyment is due to an increase of the mode of passion. A person in the material world, when favored by the material opulence of riches, generally becomes addicted to three things: intoxication, sex, and gambling. Materially opulent men, being puffed up with the accumulation of wealth, also become so merciless that they indulge in killing animals by opening slaughterhouses. And they think that they themselves will never die. Such foolish persons, forgetting the laws of nature, become overly infatuated with the body. They forget that the material body, even though very much advanced in civilization, up to the position of the demigods, will finally turn into ashes or stool. And while one is living, whatever the external condition of the body may be, within there is only stool, urine, and various kinds of worms. Thus, being engaged in jealousy and violence to other bodies, materialists cannot understand the ultimate goal of life. And without knowing this
Okay.
goal of life,
Yeah, finish the sentence. I want to say something.
And without knowing this goal of life, they generally glide down to a hellish condition in their next life.
So we're all very attached to this world, our home, our families, our bodies. And this morning I was thinking of the story of Indra. You remember the story of Indra? He was cursed to become a pig. And then Narada, I think we talked about this, Narada came down after some time, and he was, Indra was married and had children as a pig. And so Narada came and said, it's time to come back, take your position as Indra. He said, I can't leave. So we look at that story and we think that is so stupid. It's so funny and it's so stupid. Why wouldn't he want to go back and be Indra? But because he identified with a pig's body and identified with his family, place of birth, country, citizenship, and so forth, that was his reality. So we all have this reality, right? I'm Indian, I'm American, I'm from Chile, Argentina, Russia, Germany, whatever. These are my parents, these are my family. You know, it's all very difficult to see beyond that identity. We know that. I don't have to tell you this. We know that. Even though we are reading, we're not the body, still, you know, if you lost your mother, your father, your husband, your wife, you'd be devastated. Or if you were told you're going to die in a day, most of us would be devastated because we still identify with these things. So the point I'm making is that the sadhu, like Narada Muni, they don't identify with any of this. They don't see any of this. They only see what is of eternal benefit. And so, like Narada Muni could see, you remember with Mrigari? Narada Muni showed Mrigari, he said, you know, this is what will happen to you in the future because you're killing animals. And he showed him all the animals coming back and killing him. So like Narada Muni could see past, present, future. So because we're only seeing what's in front of us, sometimes the words of the sadhu or the actions of the sadhu, they seem a bit shocking. Like, why would they say that? Don't they care? Aren't they compassionate? But they are compassionate spiritually, but it doesn't always equate with material compassion. So here, Nard is being like as compassionate as he ever could be, but you know, these two young men are now like cursed. You will become trees in your next life. It's like, wow. So you think that's horrible. He's supposed to be a devotee and he's cursing them to become trees because he sees eternally and he sees what's of eternal benefit. And so therefore for him, this was like the best thing he could do. It all made sense, right? And so I think a lot of times where we have a problem ourselves is that the words of Shastra and the words of Guru are coming from this perception of seeing the soul transmigrating, not coming from the perception that we have of seeing, I'm a man, this is my wife, this is my house, my daughter, my son, my country, my job, my money. And so their words transcend that. And sometimes their words seem very difficult to accept, or their actions difficult to accept. There were times when people would come to Prabhupada with problems like a family member is critically ill and so forth. And you know, it's like when you're in that situation, you want sympathy. But so many times Prabhupada only gave spiritual sympathy, like the real sympathy. And it it could be hard for a devotee who is expecting material sympathy. Because Prabhupada's, he's trying to elevate our consciousness. And so his words are coming from that plane. And sometimes words on that plane are hard to hear because we're not seeing from that plane. But if we see from that plane, then all those words are not hard to hear and it all makes sense. Does that make sense to you? So, like if ever you read something or hear a pastime, or like this pastime we're hearing here, and like, oh, Narada Muni cursed. If ever you hear or see anything that you think, wow, that's really heavy, how come that guru said that? How come that devotee said that? That wasn't very nice. They shouldn't have said that. And then try to see it from the position of someone who's seeing eternally, seeing beyond the body, and seeing the eternality of the soul. Then you'll realize, no, that wasn't heavy at all. That was just true. That was reality. That was really the form of the highest compassion. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta was, as you probably know, he was called Nrsimha Guru, Lion Guru, because his words often were very, very strong. And he said that the words of the sadhu are like a knife cutting out the disease of materialism. So the knife has to be sharp. So sometimes it feels like when you're listening, it can feel like, oh, the sadhu is cutting. His words are cutting. It's painful. But he's actually cutting out the disease. So yeah, it is painful, but he's relieving you of the disease and he has to cut it out. And sometimes the only way to cut it out is with painful words, sharp words. So it's important. Now, I've seen, especially in India, I don't know about today, but when I lived in Mumbai in 1983 for a while, so I had a chance to see people's reactions to the sadhus and a chance to see the sadhus speaking. And if I think any of you who live in India can testify this, that generally in India, when the sadhus speak, it's heavy. Sometimes they'll give class and they'll be yelling, isn't it? Have you seen that? Premanishta shaking your head. Kamalochan, you see that it's like sometimes they'll give class and my wife and I will hear the class and we'll think, why are they yelling? Because for a Western audience, it's very unpalatable. It's like you're yelling at us. We have to become serious. We have to become sober, genuine, authentic, real, like that. Not like we should all become sober. That's how we would say it in the West. And I'm kind of holding it down because in India it can get heavier than that. You hear Prabhupada preaching in India sometimes. It's on fire. This is nonsense. Simply attached to your bodies. You don't want to follow Krishna. He preached like that, you can see. And the sadhu, they feel like that's what people like. If you don't preach like that, it doesn't go in. It's just dull brain, right? Isn't it? So the sadhu sometimes is like this operation, I've got to operate on your brain and it's hard to get in there. So I've got to scream at you, get it through. But what is so interesting is the people in India, as far as I've seen, I don't know if it's still this way, you can let me know, but the people in India, they appreciate that. As far as I've seen, they appreciate it. And I say, thank you, Maharaj, thank you. We needed to hear that. That's what they'll say. You have that experience, Prema Nishta, still? Yeah, like they recognize it. They'll say, "Oh Maharaj, we are so attached. We are grihastas. We're so attached to our families, to our homes, to our money, to this, that." And it's nice that they recognize it. And they'll say, "We're so attached. We needed to hear what you said. We needed, like we appreciate it. Like you just shook. We need to be shaken up, and you are shaking us up, and we need it." So they appreciate it. So you can see some of Prabhupada's lectures sometimes. In the West, he was not as intense. He was most intense in public preaching to Indians, because I think, when I saw Prabhupada preach to Indians, I felt like, well, the grandfather's chastising the grandkids for being nonsense. That's what I felt like. He was just like, "What's wrong with you? You're giving up your culture. You should spread this culture, not you. Now you're after technology. You're going to America for technology. You should go to America to give them Krishna." Yelling at them, chastising them. So anyway, my main point was that the people of India, they know that because we're attached, we need to hear these hard words of the sadhu. And so people from the outside will think, "Oh, why is this? He's not a sadhu. He's yelling. He's..." Prabhupada was preaching at a big Pandal program in India, and there was a Western boy, and Prabhupada said, "Come up," and he challenged Prabhupada. And some question about the guru, and Prabhupada was asking him, how do you approach the guru, or how do you understand? He wanted to say that he wanted to get the boy to say you have to surrender to the guru. But the boy asked a question, and Prabhupada asked him a question back. How do you understand knowledge, or how do you approach the guru, something like that. And the boy said, I asked you a question, please answer that first. Prabhupada said, "No, answer my question." And the boy said, "I asked you first." So they actually had Prabhupada got very upset. Very upset. You know that story? How many of you have heard that story? No? Oh. So Prabhupada got very upset, and they actually had an argument, like in front of 10,000 people in a pandal, or maybe more people. And Giriraj Swami tells the story, and people are saying, "Oh, Swamiji got angry. That was bad. He was chastising. He was upset. Like, you're not supposed to get angry. That was bad." Right? So Giriraj Swami said lots of people just left after that. They were so offended, so upset. So they didn't understand that when the Guru chastises, it's not because he's angry, but he's blessing. That's all a devotee can do, is bless. A devotee's heart is full of compassion, so all the devotee can do is bless. So I'm going to work my way over to my office. But first I have to go in my house, get the key to my office, bring my wife's phone inside, which I accidentally took with me, so she gets it. So Chaitanya Dasi, if you could read, and you'll see me eventually, and I'll let you know when I get in my office and sit down. I'll just stay on the phone, but I'll have to set it up in my office. And I guess you'll get a little tour of, I don't know. Should I take you to my temple and show you the details? Yeah, we've done that before. Maybe I could turn the camera around. I don't know how to do that. Anyway, I don't know how to do that in Zoom.
There should
Anyway.
be a little button in the left upper corner for turning the camera.
Oh yeah, let's see. I hit the camera button.
It was
Nothing
good.
happened.
Yeah. Yes. It turned. Yes, we can see.
Oh, okay. Okay. I won't show you my daughter's bedroom. Okay, so I have to give you a little explanation who these deities are. Some of you may know. We'll go closer so you won't get confused. Prabhupada had Radha Govinda deities. You know, there was a temple Prabhupada used to go worship Radha Krishna deities. And so when they made the movie, the Guru, the mantra, the Hare Krishna movement, that latest movie, they bought deities. And we knew the devotee very well that was working on the movie. And after they finished the movie, they said, well, we have these deities. Do you want them? Because we don't need them. And they were brass deities, and my wife had them painted. So that's who these deities are. They're actually in that movie. That's brass. And then these are deities that my daughter got when she was like very young. We got them in Vrindavan. And we kept them. Then these are Gaurnitai deities, which we had made in Navadvip. We went there and described what we wanted. And they carved them. And you can't even tell the size of these deities, can you? And then this is our Giriraj and Shalagram. And that's a Kurma Shalagram. Kurma swims in the ocean of nectar, of rasa. And this Giriraj was worshipped at Imlital at one point on the Jamuna. There's a temple there. And then we have some nice paintings here in our temple room. And then we have a painting of, this is a painting of Radhakund. We had these paintings done in Mayapur by an artist there. He does his paintings, he does original paintings. And they're like cheaper than if you had to get a canvas print or something like this. He just does it as a seva. So you give him a picture and he does the painting. I'll show you some other pictures we have. This is a picture of Prem Sarovara at midnight, at night. At Govardhan. And then this is a picture. You give him a picture and he repaints it. So that's hanging in our living room. This is what we see if you go out our back door. This is our property. And we have another amazing picture in our house. Look at this. It's a picture, it's a painting of Radha Raman. Isn't that amazing? This is in our dining area. So I have to walk you to my office and I have to, so let's go. See what happens with all the sun. So this is my house. In the distance, maybe you can see my office. And I put this office 45 seconds away from my house. And my thought was, if my wife or daughter have to walk 45 seconds to get something from me or see me or ask something, then they're not going to do it, and I can just be in the office peacefully. So I made it it's a 45-second walk, more or less, from the house to the office. And so I made it that way, and it worked. That once I go in here, well, it doesn't work because I get bothered by WhatsApp. So that kind of defeats the purpose. But that's the house back there, and then the office. And this is the office, as many of you know, have seen it. Right? Bring some light in here. We have this picture, as you see, in the office, right? And so now I think you can turn the camera around. Okay. So I'm just going to set this up on a stand. We can. How was the tour? Okay. You liked it? Yeah. Good tour. Hold on. Okay. Bring some light in here. This is the, well, let's do one more tour. You get to see the studio. Want to see the studio, right? A lot of you haven't seen. This is not, my camera's not like allowing me to turn it around. Yes? Yeah, okay. Oh yeah, right. So this is my office. So this is what I look at. I have a screen here and I see all of you on that screen. And I have lights here that I put on. And then all kinds of desk space. So I can get super disorganized and throw everything everywhere, but it's not that bad. Don't be disorganized in your office. Not good. And then we have the studio. So this is where I do my guided meditations. I've just been working on marriage affirmations now. So I have all kinds of technical gear. And this is where I do the videos. I sit here, there's the camera, and then camera's looking at me sitting there. There's the screen behind. So when you come here, you can see it all. It's a nice facility. So, and I can also do music. I have a keyboard over here. Yeah, we have our lights. Let's see. So a lot of this was set up during the pandemic. So yeah, okay. Turn it around. Yeah. Yeah, a lot of that was set up during the pandemic. Yeah, this is all in Alachua. Been here like 20 years, maybe like 18 years or 19 years in this house. But during the pandemic, especially, we worked on the studio. So, you know, after the last retreat, I had to answer 110 questions that were asked. There's probably 4 to 5 hours of recordings. So I went in that studio and I made very high quality recordings because we found an AI app and they wanted 3 hours of high quality recordings. So I thought, well, I'll just answer all the questions now. And we got more than 3 hours in all, you know, with my really good microphones and everything. So within a month, we're going to have my voice reading my books, Living the Wisdom. They'll become ebooks read with my voice, and no one will know it's an AI voice because it's my voice that it's my voice, but they're, you know, I don't know how they do it. And they're going to be doing it in different languages also. So you're going to get my voice in Spanish. Did you know that, Gorka? That this AI app is going to get my voice in Spanish, Chinese, Russian. You know, it's going to be amazing. Anyway, it's going to be fun to see, because also, yeah, you just read, give it text and it reads it. So that's kind of offers a nice facility. Yes. So the reason I was thinking about this pastime of Narada Muni is because we read it this every morning after Mangalarti. They read and they read this pastime. So I was thinking, okay, Narada Muni is blessing through cursing. And I was thinking about this. And we had talked about this several times before, that why would you want the blessing of a devotee? Well, if you look at this story, you think, okay, his curse was a blessing. He blessed, and Krishna had to fulfill Narada Muni's request or desire, because Narada Muni said, okay, you two will take birth in this, as trees in this area, which is going to be where Krishna's going to take birth and do his Leela, and then you'll get to meet him. And so, you know, I have to do some further research. Maybe some of you know, but maybe it's not explained. But it's like the devotee makes a blessing, and it's like Krishna knows, because we see with the blessing Brahma gave Hiranyakashipu, you don't see anywhere in the Bhagavatam where Lord Brahma goes to Lord Vishnu and says, you know, I made this promise to Hiranyakashipu, you're going to need to fulfill it. You don't see that. It's just that he fulfills it. So as far as I understand, without studying further, the devotee offers a blessing, a benediction, and then Krishna always keeps the words of his devotees true. So they've got a transcendental system. It's like, oh, Krishna, your devotee said this, so therefore you have to make sure this happens. So it's something like that. So that's why so often devotees will want to get the blessings of a devotee, because their feeling is if the devotee says yes, then Krishna must say yes. It's like they're one. So please give me your blessings. If you bless me, Krishna will bless me. Right? So here's an example of that, or many examples. Here's another example of that. Narada Muni wants to bless, and so by his desire, they take birth, and then Krishna reciprocates, because for the full blessing to work, Krishna has to reciprocate, right? Yes? He has to reciprocate with the blessing. And so anyway, it was I was meditating this morning on the importance of blessings of Vaishnavas. And if you were at the initiation last Thursday, I made the opposite point. It's like, right, with Vaishnavas, you get their blessing. And by their blessing, amazing things happen in your life. And I can testify, I think definitely every Prabhupada disciple could testify, we went from 0 to 108, like in a few days. It was like so fast in Prabhupada's association. If you saw Prabhupada, it's like the rocket ship. So we experienced the blessings of Prabhupada, but we also experienced what happens when a devotee offends Prabhupada, because we saw devotees who were very elevated, doing amazing service, just crash. And for us, we had a bird's eye view of mercy, you know, taking somebody off the street, they move in the temple, and like, you know, in a few days, they're like out on the street preaching enthusiastically. They're up at 3 a.m. chanting their rounds. And a few days before, What were they doing? Nothing like that. And then just out of nowhere, becoming very Krishna conscious. Within a few months, it's like they've been devotees for 100 lifetimes. It's just, we see this again and again and again. So that is the power of the blessing of the Vaishnava. And then we saw the opposite. Vaishnavas would be offended, and that same devotee who was rising so high would just crash. Then you couldn't even recognize them. Like this is not the same person. You know, it's kind of like give an introvert a lot of alcohol and they become an extrovert, right? You don't have to experiment. Take my word for it. Yeah. So that's what happens. So you take, you know, so they're intoxicated and then they're acting in a certain way, very extrovertedly, but they're actually introverted. So when the intoxication wears off, they just go back to their normal self. And that's there in the story Punar Mushika Bhava, when the mouse wanted to become a cat, wanted to become a dog, wanted to become a tiger. You know the story? Yeah. Anyway, it was a cat, a mouse was being harassed by a cat, so it went to the sage. Can you make me a cat? Okay, become a cat. Then he was harassed by the dogs. He went to the sage. Can I become a dog? Became a dog. Then he was harassed by the tiger. Oh, he went to the sage. Can I become a tiger? The sage said, well, when you're a tiger, what will you do? Or he made him a tiger. And yeah, I think he made him a tiger. And the tiger said, now I'm going to eat you. And the sage said, gave him a blessing, Punar Mushika Bhava, again become a mouse. So that's a very good example of how you get blessings and the blessings just push you up as if you had taken a drug. You just become somebody different, greater by that mercy. And then if that mercy is taken away, the plug is pulled out, and deflated, and you're back to that introverted person who's not really that capable of doing much. Before you were doing so much. So we saw that so many times, like you couldn't miss it. People becoming very Krishna conscious very quickly and falling very quickly from very high positions. And beyond our we could never imagine that somebody that elevated could ever fall. But when you offend a Vaishnava, it's not that you just lose the mercy, but you could say you lose the mercy. But as we understand from Shastra, it's like you don't just lose mercy, it's like you lose everything. All your piety, all your well-being, everything. And then what grows is the weed. And the weed is, the example is given in Chaitanya Charitamrita. If the weeds grow, it chokes the plant. That's why, why you pick weeds, because it can choke the plant. So the example is given, if the weeds grow, it chokes the plant and the plant dies. And so this bhakti creeper that was very, very beautiful and growing very quickly. The aparad is the weed, and the weed takes over, and it takes all the nutrients and it destroys the plant. The plant doesn't grow well, so we've seen. Hare Krishna. So it's really hard for me to look at questions on my phone, because when the chat comes up, it comes up the other way. I would have to let me change my phone to be this way. Then I can read the chat. See what going on in the chat. So going back to the, I guess, initial point, I'm giving class. I didn't have time because I was rushing back. Usually we see that something happens to us and we see only the result, and the cause of it is somewhere beyond that. But most of the time we don't want to see it, because in the long run it is sometimes impossible, or we have to wait, but we don't want to wait. We want to know it now. This generation is so impatient. Well, one of the hard truths of life, but one of the really essential truths, is to understand that the difficulties we face in this world, we would not face if we weren't in this world. There's injustice in this world, there's suffering. And we talked about that a week or two ago, innocent people suffering at the hands of bad government. And, the choice we made to be in this world, it's like, I think I was giving the example that you commit a crime, then you go to prison, and you complain about the prison. The weather's not good, the food's not good, the bed's hard. There's no freedom in here. We can't do what we want. Well, yeah, you're in the prison. Sajjananda Swami tells a story. He said when he first met Prabhupada, he wanted to see if Prabhupada was a real guru. So he decided to ask him a question that he thought Prabhupada couldn't answer. Or thought, like, this is a difficult question, this question, like, God's all loving, so why did he create this world where there's suffering? And he thought, nobody can answer this question. This is a question that philosophers have been fighting with, playing with, fighting with forever. And Prabhupada said, because you wanted this world. That's why Krishna created it. And immediately he understood. Yeah. So that is sometimes difficult to understand, because you have this loving God and creating a world where there's suffering. And then when we suffer personally, it's like there's this underlying feeling we all have that we're innocent. You ever feel that way? I'm innocent. And it's like, what did I do? I didn't do anything wrong. But we've done so many sinful things. Sometimes I think, like, how is the world even going on, considering all the sin that exists and all the sin we've committed? And the fact that we're living peacefully or decently, we have food, we have shelter, we have clothes, everything's going on. Krishna's providing it. And it's not like we earned it or even deserve it. So the fact that things are going on nicely, we take for granted. I don't think we should. Because when we take that for granted, then when there's suffering, we think, I don't deserve it. Considering all the sins we committed, it's amazing we're not suffering more. So it's hard to admit our responsibility. And even if it's not our responsibility, someone else created the problem. But we exist in this world, so it's inevitable that there will be suffering. And who knows what kind of sins we've committed in the past that are manifesting now in various ways. And so, unjust things happen. We're cheated, treated improperly, unkindly, harshly. But we don't know how we treated people in our last life. So, and even if you said there's no karma, it's all by chance, still, but we chose to have a material body. So being in this situation, you can't avoid suffering. When you get older, even if you're not that old, but as you get older, you notice changes in your body. you notice something hurts that didn't used to hurt, or you couldn't, like Chaitanya Dasi lives like on the 6th floor. I almost died walking up to your place. But if I was 30, I'd just run up the 6 flights of, it wouldn't even bother me. So, I mean, I was a bit out of shape, obviously. I'm better now because I walk upstairs every day. So I'm ready to walk up your stairs now. But my point is that as you get older, you just notice the body is wearing away. You either notice it in terms of energy or stamina, or you notice it in terms of pain. You notice when you get older. I just saw a commercial and said, "Do you have trouble? Do you have trouble remembering what you walk in a room and you forgot what you're supposed to do? Do you have trouble? Do you have trouble remembering people's names?" And if you're 20 and you say this, like that's big trouble. But this is things that happen to many people when they're older because of their lifestyle. So as you get older, the body is obviously it's breaking down. The mind is starting to slow down. I saw this video of this devotee who's he talks like this, very slow, moves kind of slow. I saw this video of him when he was like 35, and it was completely opposite. Just so much energy. And our President Joe Biden, people make fun of him because often he says things that don't make sense, and he stutters and he speaks it's not always so clear and articulate. And if you see him 20, 30 years ago, he was a lion, so this is what happens when you get older. Things start to slow down. Even if you're in good shape, it's just, notice it's not like I'm 25 and I'm okay, I'm healthy, but 6 flights of stairs, I'm a little tired. When I was 20, I could run up 6 flights and down 100 times, no problem. So can we complain about these things? Number one, we're responsible for our own health, but even if it's karmically induced and there's nothing we can do about it, whose karma is it? It's mine. And how did that karma come? I created it. So where's the ultimate problem? I chose to come here. So it's like, who's to blame? And I was thinking this morning about something that I talk about a lot and think about a lot. But to be Krishna conscious, you have to be really smart. Because Maya, her job is to make you stupid. And if she can make you stupid, then you will do something stupid. Have you ever done something stupid? And after you did it, you thought, so stupid. Why did I do that? Only somebody stupid would do that. And that's true. But that's what Maya does. She takes away our intelligence. So to be Krishna conscious, you have to be intelligent. You can't be stupid, because if you are, Maya will take advantage of you. And so you look at everything in this world, you look at the suffering, and then you think intelligently, I was foolish enough to desire to come here. And because I'm here, it will be a certain amount of suffering according to my karma that I will have to accept. There'll be a certain enjoyment. But if I'm smart, I won't complain about the suffering. I won't get overwhelmed by the enjoyment. But if I'm smart, I will utilize everything, the good and the bad, to further my Krishna consciousness. I will take advantage of everything, even the bad situations. And I will acknowledge my responsibility, even if it's not direct, even if I don't understand. But I understand that here I am, and I will suffer, and I will suffer for the stupid things I do, and I will suffer for the stupid things I say, and I can't blame anybody for it. I mean, we want to blame people, and sometimes it looks like there are people to blame. And if it looks that way, at least go back to the original cause, that I desired to take a material body. If I didn't have this body, I wouldn't be suffering now. I'd be with Krishna. Right? That's intelligent, isn't it? And that goes back to that first point of how, the sadhu is like, this is how the sadhu sees. So the sadhu is like, you remember that story? Takaharidas was arrested, trying to beat him, and you couldn't kill him, and they arrested him. And all the prisoners, all the people, I'll call them prisoners. I guess you could call them prisoners. When I think of prisoners, I think like maximum security prison. When I think of Takaharidas, I just think must have been some kind of simple jail. I'm not sure. But anyway, probably remember the story that when Takaharidas went to jail, the people in jail, the prisoners were like, the jailmates, the jailbirds, they were really happy because they thought, oh, here's a sadhu. By his blessing, he can get us out of here. So they said, bless us to get out of here. He said, I'll bless you to stay here. Because if you get out of here, you're going to do all kinds of sinful things. You stay here. I told that joke on the retreat. The woman says, I want to marry a guy who gets up early, goes to bed early, doesn't eat too much, exercises, goes to the library every day, sense controlled. Can you find him? I said, yeah. Yeah, there's plenty of men like that. Really, where are they? They're all in prison. That's prison life. So anyway. Yeah. Let's put this in another perspective. Srila Prabhupada, let's say this. Srila Prabhupada came to give us intelligence. I think that's a really important point. I think we should all remember that. Like, you may be intelligent, I may be intelligent materially, IQ-wise, but it has nothing to do with spiritual intelligence because the smart, some of the people with the highest IQ are atheists, and that's not very intelligent. So material intelligence, spiritual intelligence are different. So Prabhupada came to give us spiritual intelligence. With spiritual intelligence, we can get out of the material world. We can't get out without spiritual intelligence. And Maya will do everything possible to keep us stupid. That's her job. So let's embrace this. Prabhupada is giving us spiritual intelligence, and Maya is trying to make us stupid, or we could say keep us stupid. That's probably more accurate. Maya is trying to keep us stupid. Well, if you're not a devotee, keep us stupid. If you're a devotee, make us stupid. So there's this battle going on between Maya trying to make us stupid and Prabhupada giving us intelligence. And so if we look at Prabhupada's books, then we can say Prabhupada's books, Prabhupada's lectures, his teachings, all the teachings of all the devotees are giving us intelligence so that these difficult situations that come up in our life, we'll be able to see in a Krishna conscious perspective. And then that way, everything will be easy in our spiritual life. But otherwise, it can be quite difficult because Maya will just make us think so many stupid things. You remember maybe a month or so ago, I was talking about the sahajiyas. Sahajiya means you take it cheaply. You take something cheaply. And this one group of sahajiyas, I don't know their name, who believe that to realize Krishna's love with the gopis, you have to have your own gopis and do what Krishna did. So we're going to start a new religion, and I'm going to tell all the guys and girls to, gopi up, and you'll realize Radha, the love of Radha and Krishna. Go find some gopis. Girls, go find a guy who wants gopis, and gopi up with them. So And I was making the point that this sect is serious about that. I mean, you could say they just made it up so they could exploit women. I can't deny that. But I believe that philosophically there are people who got bewildered by Maya to come up with this idea. But the point is, if you want to understand how strong Maya is, then look at that. That's pretty strong, right? You have to imitate Krishna to realize Krishna. You have to do something which is the height of immorality. You have to do that to realize the highest spiritual truth. I mean, like, what could be more ignorant than that? What could be more stupid than that? So that's what we're dealing with. So, you know, always remember that Maya's trying to make you stupid. And always remember, whenever you feel inclined towards something material, just tell yourself, Maya's making me stupid now. How should I think? What would be the intelligent way to think? And when you start thinking intelligently, you'll see you begin to detach from that, because it was only because Maya had made you think stupidly or not think at all. And we were joking the other day. Tonight. Well, no, last night at your house, Matura, we were saying, you know, I did this. Last night I went to Matura's house. The highlight of the evening was homemade butter made from yogurt. That's like worth, yeah. If that's the butter Krishna's stealing, I could understand. It's worth stealing for sure. That was like, yeah. You think, why? How could they steal butter and eat it? You got to eat Matura's homemade butter. You'll understand. You know. You bring some. He's going to come to India. He'll bring some for us. So I might spoil by that. Anyway, if you ever eat homemade butter made from yogurt, you'll understand why Krishna steals it. So we were talking about stupid things that we've done. And then I was saying, you know, there's the saying, what was I thinking when I did that? And we always say, I wasn't thinking. That's the problem. What were you thinking when you did that? I don't think I was thinking. So that's the way Maya works. Stop you from thinking. That's stupidity. How could you have done that? That's so stupid. It means I wasn't thinking. Isn't it? Yeah. So I think it's really good to juxtapose this. Maya's trying to make Prabhupada trying to make us smart. I'm writing this down so I don't forget. I'll do a video on it, like a little 2-minute video. And you'll remember later. And Maya's trying to make us stupid. And this can save you. So whenever you're in Maya or thinking in materialistic ways, you can chant this mantra to yourself. Maya is making me stupid right now. How should I think? What's the right way to think? And then once you get the right way to think, you feel relief from this attachment. It's just like it just goes away. The illusion goes away. Oh, this is how I'm supposed to think. And it's just like, oh, okay. I'm better now. Everything's good. Right? Because we're devotees. So if we don't think the right way, then it's abnormal. For a non-devotee, the wrong way is normal. The right way is abnormal. Isn't it? So whenever you feel like attached to something you shouldn't be attached to or whatever, just tell yourself, oh, Maya's making me dumb right now. What would be an intelligent way to look at this? Yeah. We could say so many things that are American slang about this that I won't, because a bona fide guru should not say such things. But you could make many slang statements about being dumb. Anyway, I think you get the point. Okay, so go back to the chat. Kamalochan says, whatever is said from the Asasam, people accept it. Some people in India are fanatic about not shouting, even for justice, because they believe sadhu means being silent in all circumstances, even when it's needed. Yeah, that's the sin of omission. Yeah. It's like when you get married, Ajinkya, and your wife's going to get, here's Ajinkya saying this, or Myresh, and your wife's going to get upset. And you say, why are you upset? I didn't say anything. And she'll say, exactly, you didn't say anything. You should have said something. So, you didn't ask me how I was doing. Oh, you haven't seen me all day. You didn't ask me how I was doing. The sin of omission. You didn't do something you should have done. So, for us, if something has to be said, we have to say it. It's a sin not to say it because people will suffer if we don't say it. You have to know how to say it in a way people can accept it. That's for sure. So, as Mahabharata says, if you're a Brahmin, your heart should be sweet. Your words should be rough. And cutting, your heart should be sweet. Not always do our words need to be rough and cutting. They have to be digestible also, but you understand the point. Sometimes you just have to say something to get through that's not the most in the most charming, beautiful way. It's like it doesn't work that way. I have a story. I may have told you the story before. So there's this devotee, kind of immature devotee. He was young and immature and kind of the incarnation of a rascal. We'll call him the rascal avatar. So the rascal avatar was being his normal rascal, immature boy, 8-year-old in a 22-year-old body self. And the women were complaining to me that he's kind of being a little flirtatious, or not flirtatious, improper. So I told him, I said, please, just be careful. They're upset. I was very nice, very, very respectful to him and so on. So guess what happened? He did it again. So I went up a notch, like to level code 2, a little heavier, didn't work. Happened again. I told him very calmly, if it happens one more time, you're out of the temple. No discussion. He was in a state of shock because he didn't expect that from me. And I said, 100%. The next morning, he was up at 2 o'clock chanting his rounds. Completely reformed. Never talked to a woman, touched a woman like that. So it worked. So sometimes it works. If you have to use it. I don't like to use it, but I'm just saying sometimes it works. Okay. Erin is asking a question. It just popped up at the end. What's the best way for some of the small kids to chant their rounds? Oh, like 2 a.m., 2 to 4 a.m., something like that. I was going to say, Erin, there is no best way. It's all bad when you have little kids. So I didn't want to say that to discourage you, but I wanted to say that to give you a reality check that the best way is when they're sleeping or hire a babysitter, because it's a real challenge otherwise. And Aaron's saying, is there another option? I can't afford a babysitter and I can't get up at 2 o'clock. Well, what's the other option? I don't know. I'm not a woman and a mother, so I can't say the third option. But the option that comes to my mind is get a babysitter every day for 2 hours and go chant your rounds. Or just get up early. Get up 2 hours early before that. otherwise. You know, it's like it's interesting. I was thinking this morning, if you come to Mangal Arctic at Alachua, it's like they check your ID and make sure you're over 65. Because if you look in the temple, everybody's over 60. That's my joke. But like everybody's over 65 or over 50. Everybody's over 50. Unless you're second generation, some of them come, or you're from India or Guyana or some other country, they come. But if you're American, most of them are over 55 that come, over at least 50. It's like, but now we have this new program where all these young men are moving into the temple. So now you have like 5 young men at the temple for Mangalarti. And they're all living in the ashram, full-time devotees. And they're loving it. And you get up like 3 o'clock and they chant and do sadhana till 9 a.m. every day, like wow, 6 hours just for sadhana. And that's how I grew up in Krishna consciousness. And even the Grihastas live that way, many of them. And so when you live that way, it's very easy to be a devotee. Just like, if you lived in 1970 or in LA, then you would just give your kids to the nursery and 2 women would take care of 25 kids and you'd all be on Sankirtan. Neglecting your kids. No. Yeah, maybe. But, or doing some service around the temple. But times are different now. So I was thinking this morning and I thought it often. You can't if you don't have that lifestyle, you can't look at that lifestyle and think, oh, I can't chant my rounds like these brahmacharis. Yeah, obviously you can't, you have kids. So it's kind of like you have to adjust because that lifestyle is meant for renunciates. That ideal or grihasta renunciates. That's who it's meant for. That's who can do it. And anything other than that, there's some adjustment and compromise. So if you have kids and you're distracted when you're chanting, that's pretty normal. Anyway, I'm going to go back up. Well, I can't go back up because there's no time to go back up. So, yeah. You can chant 16 rounds a day with little kids. You should go back to God. That's what I said. I think that's amazing to be able to just do that with some level of control. But problem is, here's the problem. We talked about it before. If you're chanting and then your kids are around and they want to engage with you and you're like, I'm chanting. Don't talk to me. Can't you see I'm chanting? Don't bother me. Then, they're going to hate chanting because chanting is what got in the way between you and them when they were growing up. So you don't want to do that, right? Isn't it? So you ought to be careful with it. Okay, so we have to end, but maybe you can save the questions. We'll get back. Of course, yeah, next Monday I give class. And Friday we have different questions. So I'll have to say goodbye. I'm going to say goodbye. I haven't eaten breakfast yet. Probably I should eat breakfast. What do you think? Good idea. It's 11 o'clock here, probably. Yeah. Good. Hare Krishna. Jai Prabhupada.